The Big Ten, this is the last year as we know it now, before they get a little bit of a West Coast influence, if you will. A little bit of a more national reach the Big Ten is about to get here this next season. So the last year as we know it, they still have divisions. And it feels like, for the first time in a minute now in the Big Ten, you have a few more horses in the race. Penn State, huge what-if factor, right? Drew Aller, all the super sophomores we've talked about. We had James Franklin on this very show, and he told us, I think this is not just one of the most talented teams I've had, one of the deepest teams I've had. He thinks they have a chance to be better on the offensive line, which I'm sure is music to Nick Singleton and Katron's Allen's ears. They are very quietly, I think, probably in the top 3 best backfields in the country. If Drew Aller can be that dude, watch out for Penn State. I'm waiting to see what he ends up being. All right. Also, talk about Ohio State, right? Are they going to be a team that competes for a Big Ten title? The last 2 years, 0-2 against Michigan. That's probably the hump they have to get over. So in the East, it is just a dogfight. And once they go away with divisions, probably going to see a lot more Ohio State, Penn State against each other in the Big Ten championship, or Ohio State versus one of those West Coast teams. Or heck, we might get Ohio State, Michigan back-to-back. But out of the East, as of today, I am taking Michigan to show up in the Big Ten title game. Now, we're going to talk about who they play there in a minute, but the schedule for Michigan, I think, is really, really nice the way that it builds. Like, they're going to get to November pretty fresh. Their first real test is at Penn State. They are top 5 in returning production. And I've said that before. We talked about that a little bit earlier in this live show. You bring back Blake Corum. You bring back Donovan Edwards. Almost all of the offensive line. The defense. Like, you have a lot of continuity that you didn't have this time last year. A lot of question marks this time last year. But now with the continuity they have and the leadership they have, that I think is the difference maker. And that I think is what's most important for Michigan. A lot's going to be made of their talent. And it should be. Like, they got some dudes now playing for Michigan on both sides of the football. But what comes with returning production, I think the most important thing is leadership. You have guys that have been in the trenches. They've seen the live bullets and won. This is a team that knows how to win. So I think they actually go undefeated during the regular season. I think they do beat Ohio State as of right now in August. We'll talk about that game when it gets here as well. But I really like the way that they stand right now. I think Michigan, especially if they get a little bit more dynamic in the pass game, like, they're going to be a problem. I think they end up at least getting to Indianapolis. And who do they end up playing? Right in the Big Ten West, who did they end up finding in Indy? Because last year, Purdue, I mean, they made the conference title game with an 8-4 record. Minnesota, you never know what they're doing down there. PJ Fleck and the boys. Rode a boat, go Gophers, Sky U Ma, all that. Like, I'm all for it. I think Wisconsin is a team that ends up playing for a Big Ten title in year 1 of the Luke Fickell, Phil Longo era, along with Tanner Mordecai right there. He's also a part of that campaign. Again, 8-4 was what did it last year to get to Indy. I think they can do that this year. To me, it just comes down to the new offense. And so much is made of the new offense. It's air raid. They're going to throw the ball around the yard. They got a quarterback that threw for 70-plus touchdowns during his time at SMU. He's going to be a guy, like, he's probably everybody's favorite dark horse player answer for people. Like, hey, who's the dark horse Heisman guy? You're going to hear a lot of Tanner Mordecai, and that's fine. I'm not here to talk about that. But the reason why Wisconsin's going to be dangerous in 2023 is not because they're going to throw the ball around the yard. They're going to throw the ball around the yard. They're not going to be air raid like we've seen previously from, like, Texas Tech back in the day with Graham Harrell. They're going to throw the ball a lot more than they're used to at Wisconsin. But what's going to make the difference is them being able to throw the ball more, but still have that same old school Wisconsin hard hat, lunch pail, blue collar, neck roll mentality that they're going to bring to the table. Braylon Allen is a running back that wears number 0, and he looks like a miniature version of Derrick Henry. I promise you, when that train is coming, get off the tracks, they're still going to have him in that backfield, which was an enormous, enormous deal for them to keep him on the roster as they transition to the Luke Fickell era. So Phil Longo and company, I think they're going to score a lot of points, and I do think they end up getting to Indianapolis. But when it comes to our pick for the Big Ten championship, at the end of the day, like, football is a game of matchups and the line of scrimmage. And for Michigan, I love where they stand in both of those. Like, I don't see a game that Michigan walks into where they say, man, I don't know how we account for the pass. Well, you got Will Johnson. You got Mike Sanders still. Man, I don't know how we're going to be able to do it when they load the box against us. Like, what are we going to do when they bring that, for us offensively? I don't know how we answer that. J.J. McCarthy, he's the reason why you made him the starter last year. There's a reason why he's got that cannon for an arm and you're playing him right now. That's your answer. That's what you're doing going forward for this offense. So my pick to win the Big Ten championship, I'm taking Michigan. Hail to the victors. For the third year in a row, Jim Harbaugh and company hoist the hardware, and the good times are rolling in Ann Arbor before they totally just, take the snow globe and shake up what is the Big Ten Conference and add a bunch of West Coast teams. Michigan, yet again, with a more balanced offensive attack, they win the Big Ten Conference.
Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.